Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, John Donovan.
Hey, Marty Keller.
I'd like to welcome all of our viewers, as well as my good friend and teacher, John, to our Intentional Living podcast. This is a podcast that it's a conversation between John and myself that we've been conducting for, I don't know, 5.5 years now.
Oh my God, it's been wow, huh?
I know,
Wow.
I know. I didn't have gray hair when we first started this. Uh,
Yeah,
that's
I
how long it's been.
remember.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Um, for those of you who are new to this, the intentional living process is an opportunity for us to examine patterns of behavior that we find ourselves indulging in and having our mind go, why am I doing that? I don't want to do that. If you find yourself in an argument with somebody and you realize that the point you're making is wrong or foolish, but you continue making it anyway, um, or conversely, there's a behavior that you should do and you don't do it. Um, so we have these energies in our minds. We have these little voices in our heads that say, "Do this, don't do this," and they lead to behaviors that our rational mind might go, "I really don't want to be doing that," and yet we do it anyway. So,
yes,
so what the intentional living process is, among other things, is a way to examine and become aware of those patterns, look at the any kind of emotional content that those patterns of behavior may stimulate in our awareness, and then say, ask ourselves what we want instead. And
correct.
this is a process John developed many years ago that he's been using for, I don't know, 25, 30 years.
Yeah,
I've been using it
yeah,
for 10, 15 years, and it makes a difference. It allowed me to change patterns of behavior. And I'll just do a quick share, John, if I might,
yeah.
so that people tuning in for the first time might get a sense of what we're up to here. I had to go to my eye doctor the other day, and I got there, and they said, "Oh, he's running 45 minutes late." And in the old days, I would have just gotten upset, and I might have said, "What's going on here? This isn't professional. I got things to do." But I didn't. I didn't have that energy. It wasn't there. It just was like, oh, okay. And then the 45 minutes trailed over into an hour. And once it got past an hour, I decided to go to the desk and say something. Say, what's going on? It's been more than 45 minutes. And it turned out that somehow they had deleted me from the doctor's list of people to see.
Huh.
And it was not possible to find a way to sneak me in that at that moment or later in the day. I had other things to do, so we rescheduled this for next week.
Uh-huh.
But here's the pattern of behavior. The pattern of behavior was I didn't have any. I didn't feel anything except okay. In my mind, I go, it's all good. Like
Yeah.
nothing, no harm, no foul. But that's different. I don't even know if a year ago I would have had that response or that reaction. I might have gotten agitated, angry. I might have said something to somebody that I might later have regretted. And so, what the process we're doing here is learning to identify what's going on in our minds and then creating something different. Now, I intend to create a world of joy, peace, freedom, community, and health. I've been saying that for at least 3 years now. So, what showed up for me when I was denied my place in line was joy, peace, freedom, community. I was in community with the woman who said that. It's like she
Yeah,
was way more
yeah,
agitated about it than I was.
yes. That's,
So I'm
yeah,
just
I
I'm just sharing this.
understand.
I'm just sharing
Yeah,
this to help people see what's possible when we do this work.
yes. The,
And
the shifts are remarkable.
exactly. And
Yeah.
as those of you who've been following our recent podcast might know, we have a series of principles that we use to help illuminate the process. So what we're talking about here is a practice. It's a way to identify those patterns of behavior and to create intentions to reprogram our subconscious to create something different. So create something that we say we want. That is our intention. That's why we call it intentional living.
Yeah.
So we've been dealing with a number of those principles. I think we've done a podcast on, I think, the first six. I'm going to put those up on the screen so that we can give
Yeah,
our colleagues a little bit of an idea of what the heck we're talking about.
yeah,
And once I find the right button to hit, John, uh,
got it.
and so let me know when you can see them.
I got them. I
Okay,
can see them.
so we've covered the first, I think, six. I'm always getting what I want. It's never about the other person. The issue is not the issue. People treat me the way I want them to. The
Yeah,
quality of my life is determined by the focus of my attention. And the last one that we did was life happens for me, not to me. And so, for those of you who are interested in following what we said about those things, there's a podcast for each of those topics, and you can check them out on our Intentional Living YouTube channel, which is how you got here to watch this with
yep.
us today.
Hmm.
So, we're going to talk about the next one, which is what I resist persists. And before we get into that, John, any comments that you want to make about either the first, anything in the first six, or anything I had to say there before we get into this next principle?
These are these are sayings. I'm not sure whether I copied them from somewhere, I heard it from somebody, but I use in as facilitating specifically in the jail to like drop bombs on cognitive bombs. I don't know what to say to peak conversation or to talk about the material. What we're doing is looking at unresolved complex post-traumatic stress, which created the behavior or the thing that everybody was in the group working on, and these guys happen to be all in jail. And these were like brain teasers to get people to like ask questions. What do you mean by that? And in the dialogue, um, we see that we're active in everything that happens to us. There's something in us that's either participating in it, whether we like when I first started recovery, I saw myself mostly as the victim, and through learning this process and learning what the real like the issue is never the issue. Whatever I thought was I needed to argue about was a an avoidant behavior, so I wouldn't have to feel something in my body. So I made this issue big, and that created chaos and drama when there was something else going on that I wasn't aware of. So I learned to look inside instead of trying to get the outside to do behave correctly. So I felt okay. I can do that from the inside. I can do that on my own. Nobody has to do anything different. And all of these put me in a learning mode or what I might call a curiosity mode. Like, okay, what do you mean by that? Explain that to me, and it creates dialogue. Um, and increases awareness.
Well, and creating dialogue also has the potential to increase intimacy, which is something I like to have with my relationships,
Correct. Yeah.
and something which my family of origin taught me how not to do.
Correct.
So, okay, with that, we're going to take on, as I said, we're going to take on this one here today. What I resist persists. And
Yep.
it's like, what does that mean to you, John?
Anything that um, I find myself uh, resistance to has a hidden meaning for me in it. Um, One of the practices we do is what we call the accountability tree, and we take a character defect to the process is you say the truth of where I find myself, and if the statement is generally about a character defect or the end result of unresolved complex post-traumatic stress, subconscious wounding, and then say that. And the more resistance I have to say that, and an example I will give is, I'm mean to the point of cruelty. Well, the more resistance I have, at like, oh, I don't want to say that. the more value it has in the subconscious healing arena. Now, if I know I'm not being at the point of cruelty, then why wouldn't I just, okay, all right, I don't know, I'm being the point of cruelty. It has no effect on me. But if it's hidden from me, there's something in me that wants to go, no, 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 you're talking about somebody else. No, I would never do that. I'm a nice guy. When the results is I'm codependent, alcoholic, and a rageaholic and workaholic. Okay, so there's something going on. And we say this to each other, what you resist persists. And then the language that we're taught is about explaining, which is a form of resistance, defending, which is a form of resistance. Defending what? Say an accusation. Somebody said to me, what you just said hurt. Instead of going, oh, wow, how or what engaging, I would go, no, I didn't. I didn't mean to. It wasn't my intent. And in that, not owning the resistance to own what the other person said, whether it's true or not, keeps me from the thing you talked about, intimacy with that other person. Um, this is also wrapped up into our concept of willpower. Well, if I just had enough willpower, I could stop eating Haagen-Dazs ice cream, vanilla Haagen-Dazs ice cream. And then I go get some ice cream and I beat myself up for, instead of saying, well, one of a couple things, I'm using that ice cream to numb, or I like it. And, oh, and I know that it's harmful for me, and moderation is good, but otherwise, and just owning the behavior. If I resist owning the behavior, I will tend to repeat the behavior. Um, so, anything you want to add right there?
Well, let's just let's go deeper. So the source of the resistance is actually the disease.
Yes.
So so the theory that we're using here is that you mentioned this earlier with respect to complex PTSD. We all have a traumatized little child in our psyche. And what we mean by that is we
Yeah.
experienced wounds and hurts and violence of some kind when we were 0 to 5, where we had no
Yep.
defense, that we couldn't use our mind to create a defense. We could only have an emotional response, and eventually that emotional response became congealed into a certain way of being that we then, as we grew up, to the extent that we didn't have the information that that was going on, it became our inner source of attraction.
Correct.
So what I've discovered is that little Marty, that resistance is part of that attraction, that the energy that creates resistance is actually designed to keep that energy in me.
Yeah.
So, give an example. When I go to a group meeting, and by the way, for newcomers, we do this work in group, and we'll talk about how you can join a group later on. But how many times have I gone to a meeting and basically started falling asleep?
Yeah. Yeah.
And falling
Yeah.
asleep is a way of resisting what I'm hearing, because what I'm hearing might actually be of value to me in my recovery. And the little guy inside doesn't want recovery. The little guy inside wants to stay safe using that congealed way of feeling that came back from, for me, 70 years ago. So I learned that falling asleep was a form of resistance, and that if I notice myself falling asleep in a meeting, I go, uh-oh, there's something here for me to pay attention to.
Right. Yeah.
And
Yes.
as you were implying, I wanted to make this explicit for our listeners, is that there's nothing wrong with falling asleep. There's nothing wrong with resisting. It's it's just, what our work here is to notice it so that we have a choice.
Yes.
It's like, maybe falling asleep is an appropriate choice in the moment. but unless I'm aware that that's what's going on, it's just I'm going to just persist in overlooking and not paying attention to what might be on offer for me to create the world I really want.
Right. Yeah.
So I see that resistance as part of the disease. It's like, or to maybe disease isn't the right word, but a certain part of the structure of dysfunction.
Yeah. And I'm trying to think of other ways resistance, and using my own experience, um, around my alcoholism. Before decided, I decided it was a problem. Other people would mention it to me, and I would defend myself or make excuses, and I was resisting their feedback. Um, and I didn't know at the time that I could dialogue about that, and it wouldn't hurt, wouldn't, if I didn't have a problem with alcoholism or drinking, I could just say, well, let's talk about what are you seeing? I mean, maybe, see, denial. That's what I was trying to get at.
Right.
Denial means I don't know. So my behavior, my alcoholic behavior or my rageaholic behavior is coming from my subconscious. So I don't even notice it. And then when somebody else points that out to me, this, we call it a reticular activating system, the survival mechanism. The way I survived was by either drinking or raging or going to work. I would defend that and not know that why I was defending it, or why I was making excuses for it, instead of just looking at it plainly and seeing the pattern, just seeing the behavior and going, oh, yeah, I have drunk every day for the last 2 years. It's like, oh my God, oh, just to look at it. But for me to give up my drinking without doing some healing, uh, the survival mechanism said, no, don't notice that. Denial means I don't know. Sometimes, sometimes it's appropriate. Sometimes in the recovery process or the therapeutic community, we use denial as a bludgeoning tool, like you're in denial. And we even, the anachronism is also accusatory. It says, don't even notice I am lying. Well, I'm not lying. If I don't know, I I don't know. And the only way I can find out after I've gone through this process is whenever I defend myself, I know now that I'm participating in my own depression. There's something in there I don't want to look at, which is reasonable for a wounded child. It's reasonable for survival. Um, and I've gone so many times to the tree and healed so much of the trauma that when somebody gives me feedback now, I listen. I say, oh wow, I felt the resistance when I heard you say that about me, Marty. Okay, so there's some truth in there. Now I know that there's some truth in there based on that feeling. And it's hidden from me. I wouldn't know unless you pointed it out. Um, so now I use resistance as a tool for my recovery. Whenever and some of my resistance I could, before I understood all this, like facing an addiction, the one that I can remember vividly is smoking. It's like I found myself smoking, not wanting to smoke, feeling it mess with my body, and then going, I gotta quit, I gotta quit. And then as I'm saying it, picking up a cigarette, and oh my God. And I just felt this concrete wall that I was against. And I knew I couldn't, I was done. I couldn't stop. So when I felt that resistance, and it felt like a concrete wall, I go, okay, I'm done. I'm okay. I'm either going to die or I don't know. I'm done. I'm powerless. And as soon as that happened, the thought came to me of a friend that does smoking cessation classes, and I like the guy, and so I decided to go to that class. And but until I gave up on the resistance. I'm done. I can't do this. I know I'm watching myself not be able to do this. I can't do this. I'm done. I lost the resistance, and then a thought, an action came to me about resolution, which
Well, you know that that leads us, I think, to talk about solutions a little more explicitly. Um, because I remember a meeting that you were facilitating many years ago, back when you were facilitating our men's work, and one of our members was late because he stopped to buy a donut, and
right.
he was all sheepish about it. You know, I shouldn't have
Yeah,
done that or whatever. And you said something to the effect of, "Would you be willing to give yourself permission to buy that donut and eat it?" And so what that taught me is the way it just goes with what you said. Now I use the resistance as information for my recovery, which by the way feeds into our last podcast where we talk life happens for me, not to me.
correct.
So we look at the resistance not as a bad thing because that's where we start resisting resistance, and it just becomes a
Right.
vicious
Yeah.
circle.
Yep.
Instead, you taught me I give myself permission. So what I heard you say in your example was you gave yourself permission to smoke. You gave yourself permission to
Go right ahead.
stop resisting your
Yep.
belief that you shouldn't and just do it, light up. And immediately a solution came to you that was not available because you were in resistance, which meant that you were being stuck in the old way and
Yep.
you were the old way was running your life at that moment.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I just want to offer to, and maybe you could talk a little bit about that that notion of I give myself permission
I was.
as a way of antidoting the resistance challenge.
Yeah, and I'm gonna preface that with my my concept of resistance, saying it's not a good idea for me to do this. I should be able to do this. That resistance thing we're talking about, in my mind, said I was a good person because I was looking to be good.
Exactly.
So okay, so I was working in the jail, and a young man who was a heroin addict said, I asked him, and he was went through the whole program about 6 months, and he was getting out. And I said, "What's your exit plan?" And he said, "Well, I'm going to have the case manager pick me up at the gate, take me downtown to the bus station, drop me 2 blocks from the bus station. I'm going to get on the bus, go see my parole officer in Santa Cruz. It was from Sacramento, Santa Cruz. You do a drug test, and then I got to go out and find a job and a place to live." And I said, you want to hear what I heard you say?" He goes, and he was sincere about quitting.
Sure.
He was okay. So he was saying to me exactly what he thought he needed to say to, like, okay, I'm good. And I said, what I heard you say is you're going to have the case manager take you, drop you 2 blocks from the bus station. You're going to go to a liquor store, pick up a pint of whiskey. You're going to down that thing, get on the bus, sleep it off, go see your parole officer, blow smoke up his ass about finding a job and housing. You can go out and get loaded. He goes, how did you know? And I said, well, you're a heroin addict, and you told me 2 blocks from the bus station. Oh, come on, okay. So try this. And I said, say this after me if you want to. I say, I hold value as a human being. And then I asked him what his critical comment of himself as a heroin addict, because he didn't like it. But he goes, John, I'm a gutter snipe junkie. When I'm a junkie, I'm a gutter snipe junkie. I said, good. You go, I hold value as a human being, and I'm a gutter snipe junkie, and I give myself permission to use heroin. He goes, what in the hell would I do that for? And I said, I don't know. What you're doing working for you? If what you're doing is working for you, just go right ahead. If it's not, trust me. Just see what happens. Just see what happens. So he did it. I hope that as a human being, I'm a gutter snipe junkie. And I give myself permission to use heroin. And then the class was over. He left. The next class he come in, I asked him, how's that working for you? I hold value thing. He goes, John, I hold value as a human being. I'm a gutter snipe junkie, and I give myself permission to use heroin, just not today. That man called me for 2 years, saying, "Thank you, John. I'm sober." He got out of the resistance, and the resistance is in the subconscious. You don't even know you got it.
Exactly.
You don't even know you're resisting it. I'm not talking about you. I'm trying to be a good person. I'll look at my drinking. I'll quit drinking. And when I do drink, I won't be yelling and screaming. I'll go in my, something, all this stuff. No, when I drink at first, everything's cool. Then I get mean. I'm a, oh my God, just owning it. I give myself permission to drink. I hold that as a human being. I'm a alcoholic, lush, mean SOB, and I give myself permission to drink alcohol. And that mechanism that this has this resistance in, you're going to do this no matter what, because you survived doing it all your life. You're going to continue whatever the pattern is: alcoholism, rageaholic, loop thinking, and it goes nowhere. So it seems I was talking about the addiction cycle. Use, feel good, guilt, and then stress level builds up. Use, feel good, guilt. And everybody wants to break it at the stress level, be nice, meditate, or break it at the feel good level, or break it at the use level. Nobody wants to break it at the guilt level. If you break a cycle, no matter where you break it, it's broken. So at the guilt level, oh, I hold value as a human being and I did it again, whatever it was, getting drunk and being mean, blacking out. And I give myself to do that again, give myself permission to do that again. This mechanism that's fighting for its life, giving you all the rationalization and keeping the denial going, relaxes and goes, oh, he's on board. I have a lucid moment and I, oh, wait a minute. Wait, no, I'm going to a meeting. In the resistance, I don't have that break to consider any other option because I'm full blown, all my energies in no, 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 I can't do this anymore. Um, and that's I'm going to say, real intricate way of describing how this resistance works. And most of it, you don't even know you're doing. It's coming from your subconscious. Um,
Well, it's what we talked about at the top of the podcast is that resistance shows up as a form of compulsion. I'm compelled to not
yes,
do something or I'm compelled to do something depending on what the particulars are. And so and what the I give myself permission is I hope everyone can see how that's a break in the cycle because it
yes,
so what I hear, I don't think you said this exactly, but what I hear, it's a break because it's completely outside of the pattern.
yes,
So I give myself permission to shoot up heroin is contradictory to the way the pattern's supposed to work because it's supposed to be
right,
guilt. And I
right,
just took away the guilt.
exactly. Yes.
Wow.
No, when I first did this, and it's just one of those things that came through me, graced with this.
Right.
Anyway, so when I first he left that class, my thought was, oh my God, I hope he doesn't tell somebody I gave him permission to use heroin. I'm supposed to be the drug and alcohol counselor.
Right.
Um, in fact, about a year later, one of the other workers there came in and had seen a guy out in the community, and he had the car, the wheels, the bling, and he was back into his drug addiction and sales. He goes, "What are you doing?" And the guy said, "Oh, I'm doing what John told me to do. John gave me permission to do." And I'm like, "Holy shit! No, whoa, 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 whoa. No! I asked him to give himself permission." And so this is risky. It's out of the box. And I want to be real clear. I'm not giving anybody permission, or I'm asking you to do that whole process. The number one, I hold value as a human being, very important. Whatever the problem is, and then I give myself permission to have this problem, see what happens for the purpose of healing. And it can be, especially if somebody listening to it now for the first time, seen as giving permission, and it's not that at all. it's addressing the resistance that's coming from your subconscious that keeps you stuck in that behavior. Just for clarity.
Right. I just want to point out to everybody when John's doing this, he's referring to a diagram of the human brain. So he's not talking about his fist.
Right. Yeah. Brainstem, midbrain. Yeah.
So just
Thank
wanted
you.
to
Thank you
clarify
for
that.
that.
Yeah.
Thank you. I
Um,
appreciate it.
so the other part that's subtle that will get missed if we don't pay close attention to the whole formula is what the gentleman said. I give myself permission to use just not today. So
Right.
the point to observe here is that giving myself permission is not the same thing as requiring myself.
Correct.
Giving myself permission is simply creating freedom. I am now in a position to consciously choose and whatever I choose is what I choose.
Okay. One of the contributing factors of this is in my family of origin dysfunction, I learned to answer the question correctly. Anytime somebody asked me a question, I knew that there was a right way to answer it. And
Right.
it was generally, yes, I'll do whatever you're asking me to do. No was not acceptable. So I grew up and I would use questions in my conversations and I would couch the questions in a way the other person would obviously want to say yes. So I discovered that me saying no was an issue. And if I don't really have all three options, which is yes, no, maybe, I'm not really making a choice. I'm in a pattern of behavior. And I'm going to be graphic. Yes, no, maybe. So if I take one of them out, I'll take the no out. I'm not, it's not really, I'm not in the free flow. I'm limiting myself. So any question I ask myself, if it's a true question, it could be a statement of behavior. I intend to be sober. Okay. Okay, cool. Now, do I want to be sober or do I think I'll remain sober the rest of my life? Uh, that's a yes, no, maybe question. I don't know. If I can't say no, I think I have to say yes. That sets up this resistance cycle. And again, it's risky, especially in the addiction field, to talk to people about they have the option to. When I introduce myself, every new person, I let them know it's your choice. It's always your choice. I don't know what would be best for you. You're going to make the choice. And the choice is yes, you can, no, I can't, or maybe. And if one of those options are out, you get stuck in a resistance cycle. Another thing, term we use in the recovery field is hold a reservation. Like maybe if I do it this long and then I can do this, and if this happens, then that's like holding a reservation that I don't have to do it for the rest of my life. Um, sets up relapse, and this is one of the things that sets up relapse is demanding of yourself to do it the right way. And again, it's just like the I hold value. I'm a heroin addict, and I give myself permission to use heroin is risky. And in the context of healing, in the context of the class, in the context of knowing that I have in the brain, the midbrain, and the brainstem are hooked into my survival mechanism. And for me, I had alcohol equals staying alive. This thing wants to keep me alive. So no matter how I couched it, this was going to get me back to alcohol because it had it equated to I'm alive. I survived. I survived. When the truth was it was killing me.
Yep.
But I couldn't get to that truth in trying to make this not do that. So yeah,
This is a complex issue, and we're running out of our time for today. I
yeah,
just want to point out before we wrap up that if you haven't discerned this thread that's running through this conversation, I want to make it explicit, which is that all of recovery, just like all of healing, is most effective when it's done by voluntary choice.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I choose to recover is not the same thing as I'm going to take this program because they expect me to, or
Correct.
they told me
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
I
Right.
do it because that's my free choice. And like you were just saying, if I don't have the option of yes, no, or maybe, then I'm not in free choice. I'm in
Right.
coercion.
Right.
Coercion. A lot of us, we live in a culture where coercion is normal, and
Endemic and systemic.
it may always be normal because there's 8 billion people on the planet, and I don't know that we can avoid coercion of some kind from this, that, or the other thing. However, with
Right.
respect to our choices about our lives, what's the life I want to create? If I'm not free to create a mess as well as a brilliance, then I'm not free.
Right.
And I really
Well,
love, again, what that gentleman that you work with said, I give myself permission to use just not today. And that's the
just
whole power of that's the breaking of the cycle of resistance and moving into freedom.
yes.
And once I'm in freedom, a whole new world opens up. So before we wrap up, any last thoughts?
I'm good for now. Thank you, Marty,
Yes,
for
you are
doing this
good.
again. Yeah.
So, as I said during the podcast, I would just inform everybody that we do this work in group. And all of our meetings, we have 4 of them a week. They're on Zoom, and the different days and times will be available at the end of the podcast, and also the Zoom addresses for the Zoom rooms. And these meetings are all facilitated. John facilitates on Saturday mornings. I facilitate Wednesday afternoons, and two of our other colleagues facilitate on Monday and Thursday evenings. So these are all Pacific time. So we invite you to check them out and come to a meeting, ask questions, argue with us. Doesn't matter. Just check it out.
Right.
And
Yep.
so with that, we'll pick up this conversation. We're continue to take a look at the principles next week. And we got another interesting one coming up next week. So thank you very much, John. I'll see you then.
You're welcome, Mark. You got it, Marty.
Take care.
Thank you.